Okay, this is probably the most fun I had making a journal. This is my Dick Tracy journal. Dick Tracy, I have these little handcuff charms on here. Dick Tracy was a really crazy, he was like a really hard-boiled kind of detective. And if you read about him, like the movies that they made of him really don't do justice to his character. This character was written by Chester Gould. Chester Gould was off the hook. He was really, he was a staunch supporter of law enforcement. He was against Miranda rights when it came out. He was like anything that, you know, tied the police hands, he felt was like a gift to criminals. It's really funny. And he has really gruesome deaths for his villains. And the more, I guess, nasty or villainous the villain, the more horrific the death he would create for him. So I have here some like fingerprinting cards, because he did do like forensic stuff in his strip. And Dick Tracy's the first time ever a murder is committed on a comic strip. First time ever. I have some sort like evidence from real crimes in the stories. I have a CIA manual. Supposedly Dick Tracy was in, you know, law enforcement in the CIA and stuff, but this is actually a real book, Trickery and Deception for the CIA, but Dick Tracy didn't write it. The information inside, though, is from an actual book that Chester Gould did write on Dick Tracy's methods of criminology, so it's pretty cool to see that. And I just have it tucked in this pocket here. This is a newspaper article referring to a story and a piece of glass. So Gargles, one of Dick Tracy's villains, who he kills everybody pretty much, his death, he was a glazer and he fell on shards of glass and he was impaled by the glass. That's how he died. So I have this like fake piece of glass, and this is actually an image from a little big book of Dick Tracy. I have, these are his villain cards. This was the Brow. He had all these really funny names and really funny characters. Everybody pretty much knows Flat Top, right? His head is flat on the top. And then this is Mrs. Prune Face. Just really funny characters. You know, you have to really, there's a lot of his early movies online which are really worth a look if you've never seen it. It's really cool, but I really do suggest trying to read some of the comic strips. They're really crazy. Diet Smith, he was a billionaire, but he was a genius entrepreneur, industrialist, and he really actually made that famous, the two-way radio, and a whole slew of other inventions and crazy things that Dick Tracy put to use. This is another ransom note from Splitface, who was another villain, and I have a newspaper article in here explaining like what happened in that story. This is like an illustration to Dick Tracy from Chester Gould. Chester Gould is actually the guy who drew Dick Tracy. So this is Hangman's Knot was in a story, and this is like a little Dr. Tonic. He was also in this episode, so I have that there. Dick Tracy was in the armed forces, so that's his ID card. These are also little illustrations. I'm a cop. I don't need a gun to get respect. This is a whole slew of stuff from one of the episodes. This is, it was a diamond heist, so these are some diamonds here. This is evidence. It was two pieces of leather that were found on the victim. A little note where someone slipped through the door. This is Jules Sparkle, which was another guy. and the Diamond Heist news from the newspaper. This is all like pertaining to an episode of Dick Tracy. And if you're a Dick Tracy fan, you will know that. Dick Tracy had a sweetheart, and here she is. And she wrote on the back, "For my very bestest boyfriend, love, Tess." Tess Trueheart was her name. And this is another invention from the guy who made the wristwatch, the space coupe. Dick Tracy went through times. Dick Tracy, he lasted through, I mean, I think he's still in the newspaper now. But Chester Gould, like, updated him, and, like, he grew a mustache and sideburns in the 60s. He went through a whole thing. When we went to the moon, that's when he got his spacecraft. Pretty interesting. Okay, here's his little wallet, and I have his detective badge. It really has a pin back on there. If you wanted to, you could wear it. And then in here, I did one of those envelopes, and you'll see I made the watch. And again, if you wanted to, you could put it on your wrist. And you could close it up and wear it. It was really, really fun to do this. There's another page in there from the Little Big Book. And I actually have a friend who, he was really into Dick Tracy, and he loved this journal. And I made him some, for Christmas, I made him some extra bits. And then I include, with most all my journals, I just include a little bio and an explanation of the things that I make for it and why it's in there. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little silly Dick Tracy journal. See you next time.